be returning to the Finger Lakes to learn even more. I am one of those people who did not know what crypto mining was, and I thought it was a video game. And I've learned so much. But really, I've learned so much because of conversations like the one we are about to have, where I am given the opportunity to start from scratch and to hear from people and to be able to actually understand with the intricacies of an experience and an issue with the stories that people share with you and illustrate. So I want to appreciate your willingness to actually help me learn, continue to learn. So I am running for Lieutenant Governor after spending 20 years. Is everything okay? Oh, sorry. After spending 20 years as a community organizer, as a leader and builder of organizations that are rooted in working class communities, immigrant communities, organizations that are dedicated to building power that belongs to people, building community and creating spaces where people, much like you, find a way to not feel alone in the particular challenges that they're facing in their lives, and to actually envision solutions together and pursue them together. I came to this country when I was 17 years old from Colombia, and it was really in New York. I lived in New Jersey for a few years. Somehow that detail hasn't come up, but it was really when I found myself in New York that I began to feel at home. But I began to feel at home actually because I became part of an immigrant rights organization and felt like, okay, I can be part of this country and not feel like a guest, not feel like I just should be quiet and just letting things happen, but actually I could belong by demanding for this country to be better and being in community with others who are doing the same. And so I understand the power of community and how transformative it is and how it allows you to set roots and to feel safe and to imagine what is possible. And I started organizing in the summer of 2001 in a community of day laborers, undocumented immigrant workers in the North Shore of Staten Island, a neighborhood called Port Richmond, which is one of the forgotten corners of New York City. And at the time, in 2001, it was one of the places where it had one of the fastest growing Mexican communities. And there were lots of young people. I was fairly young then, 21. And there were lots of young people, yes, who were a little bit younger, in the late teens, who were not living the lives of young people. They were working 12-hour-long days in construction, in restaurants, in delis. They were in this country to send money home. And they were living in dilapidated housing. Their wages were getting stolen all the time. And even with those really challenging circumstances, they would come to this tiny community organization where I was the one staff member. At the end of the day, they would come and they would say, I'm here, I'm ready to learn English. And I understood in that community that people's dreams for themselves, for their loved ones, are a very powerful force that allow them to just wake up again and again and do it all over again. And that when people find community, they begin to feel like their dreams are actually more possible and that they can pursue them together, they can change their circumstances. So I spent the last 20 years building organizations that allow immigrants and working class folks in New York and across the country to do that. And after doing that for 20 years, building an organization that some of you might know, it's called Make the Road New York, one of the largest immigrant rights organizations in the state. And then building an organization, a national organization called the Center for Popular Democracy, which is a network of community organizations in 33 states and Puerto Rico. I looked, at the end of last year, I looked at the state of my community and I looked at the state of the elections, and I noticed in my community a lot of fatigue, just exhaustion from the chaos of Trump and Cuomo and COVID, and very low energy and low morale. And I looked at how the state elections were shaping up, and I noticed that the sectors in our society that didn't lose economic stability, that didn't lose loved ones were quickly reorganizing around to sort of control the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office. And when that happens, when elections become predetermined before people have a chance to vote, the communities that always lose stand to lose again. And so even though I have never run for office, I decided to accept the invitation of the Working Families Party to run for lieutenant governor because it felt important, one, to energize people, to be able to knit together the many different efforts of people organizing all across the state, people who are fighting to improve the lives of workers, people who are fighting for better schools, people who are fighting to protect our lakes and our snow and our mountains and our trees, to put together all these efforts into one broad vision of New York where everyone can live with dignity. And the fact is that in New York, we live in one of the richest states in the country, but also one of the most unequal, in a place where a lot of people are really struggling to make ends meet. And that's because of decisions of politicians and others, of decades and decades and decades of decisions that prioritize the demands of billionaires and the industries that dominate the debate, and that, decisions that tell the rest of us, just wait until next year to take action on climate, just wait until next year to tackle affordable housing, just wait for better schools, just wait more time for a raise to the wages, just wait. But we must build a stadium for it, because a billionaire said we need it right here, right now, in a city like Buffalo, where half of the children live in poverty. So I just thought we should not accept that paradigm that we have to wait. We should not accept the idea that we have to balance the demands of billionaires and the needs of everybody else and the urgency to take action on climate. That is not true. We don't have to do that balance. What we do have to do is actually ask our state government to focus on the priorities of the families. So despite the fact that I am running for the first time, this campaign has gained a lot of energy and momentum because there is a real moment for people to just say, can we please focus on the things that people need right now? Can we tackle the things that are urgently demanding of bold action right now, like action to protect our environment and to get rid of fossil fuels and to actually invest in the transition into a green economy. So I am very, very, I'll have to say that the campaign has allowed me to learn so much, and I have learned so much because of conversations like the one we're about to have, when I get to listen a lot and really take many, many notes and absorb a lot of both rich content, rich history, and especially a rich vision for what is possible if we act together to protect one another, to care one another, to demand what we deserve, and to partner with leaders like Anna who are fighting the fights that are necessary, transforming these ideas into legislation and doing the work in Albany to make sure that legislation moves and to shape the debate and to demand with urgency that our elected officials listen. So I'm going to listen a lot, and I promise to integrate what I learned from you into the conversations that I will have in the future debates that we will have, and to especially use what I learned today to make sure that my campaign is reflective of the needs and the priorities of you who live here, of the families that take care of you and that you love,